Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this Zoom call. My name is Christy Rodriguez, and I work at Growing Hope. Um, I just spoke with TC Collins, and he just had a little bit of difficulty logging in, but he has the link resent to him and should be joining in just a couple minutes, just to keep you all posted. I also just wanted to share that this year we're doing every month, essentially, a community-led workshop. So please look out for upcoming workshops that will be going on at Growing Hope, virtually, at nearby parks and Ypsilanti. We'll be posting all of that information on our social media. Thank you for waiting.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thank you. And I apologize for being way too late. Technology is not my best friend today. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing okay. I'm doing the best that I can. So my name is TC of Willow Run Acres, and I want to thank everyone for being here today. And again, I do truly apologize for being late. That is not normally that I do things of that nature, of showing up late to my own event. Today, we're going to talk about the history of tinctures and the purpose of tinctures. Sorry about that. My phone is going out, letting me know I'm in a meeting. I would like to share the screen if I could. See if I can do that option here. Screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm new at PowerPoint. It's a new project for me, so being a farmer and a PowerPoint presentation person is trying to work with me. So bear with me. So I want to thank Growing Hope for allowing this venture to happen. I also want to thank my staff for being here also, and I want to thank you all for being here. The history of tinctures go pretty far back. Tinctures has been here for several centuries. Some people use them for medicine. Some people use them for different type of compounds, for healing, for medicines, for religious practices, or for just in general of overall health. Preparation of tinctures is very important. It is used primarily for with the use of alcohol, 80 proof or above. Using tinctures is very important. It was first discovered back in 3400 BC. That's a little bit before my time. But since then, different cultures has been using the concept of tinctures in many different ways. The Asian community used tinctures for and with ginseng. Also use yard long for the yard long bean, but that is a type of bean that grows over a foot and a half, and they primarily marinate or soak that type of bean into alcohol to get the properties from the bean itself. And in the Roman culture, back during the Roman period of medieval time, or I would say during middle time, they would use the tinctures for an aphrodisiac in many different ways. And also they would use that tincture as a weapon itself to hold one or another captive or hostage, because tinctures itself was a very valuable commodity. So for communities during the Roman period that had tinctures, they had the upper hand. For some lesser communities that did not have the know-how or the medications or the potential of interactions of creating tinctures, they were at a disadvantage. And like I said, in this slide here, it also talks about the history of tinctures itself. In the 1900s, or in the 19th century, sorry about that, in the United States, a lot of Americans at that time started advancing with tinctures. One of the most important tincture that a lot of us can remember, they used to call it 23 or 24 at that time, and it primarily was a carnival type of drink that a lot of carnival attenders or attendees went from town to town, and they would have this elixir type of concoction that they would say that it was a holy healer and if you take this medicine or if you take this type of drink, and it will heal you with all properties. But then again, it never did do any such work. It was primarily a sideshow, a moneymaker at that time. Today's remedy of one of the classics of a tincture is Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is one of the true non-alcoholic or alcohol-based tinctures that's available on the open market. Preparation of tinctures is pretty much with dried fresh herbs, or and is marinated or is reserved in alcohol, vinegars, or glycerin. One of the most important things is that for me, if I was to make any type of tincture itself, you want to have at least 80 proof or above in alcohol because it's more strong in content with alcohol base, and it has less water. That's most important. And you want to make sure that it is a concentrate. Medical compounds is most important. And always before making any tinctures, I strongly suggest that you check with your doctors or check with any of your health professionals, because it may be good for one person, but to the other person can do harm. So if you're making any type of tinctures, always ask your doctors first or ask a health professional. So that way they can tell if any type of medicine that you are pre-taking, or if any health issues predating of what you want to get yourself involved in, because all it takes is just getting the wrong advice, taking the wrong type of liquid or medicine. It can be fatal. So at any time, always ask a professional before making any tinctures. Once you make a tincture, it's most important to remember that even though the higher alcohol content is in that remedy, it still can be flammable. So please be aware of that. So it can be a open flame type of accelerant if it's around anything that's a heat source. So you always want to keep tinctures in a cool, dark place. And the longer you keep the contents in the bottle or jar, you want to make sure it's totally submerged. So that way you don't be susceptible to bad bacteria such as botulism, because if it's above the liquid, it can start to get growth of bacteria or mold, and it can be also fatal. So please keep it submerged and use cheesecloth. Using cheesecloth itself by wrapping up your contents and just tying it up and pushing it all the way down, so that way it'd be submerged deeper into the vessel itself, and it won't be able to float up. And change it regularly, and so that way it can be a lot stronger in content. You can also use a plastic or a glass eyedropper. Most pharmacists, they will have eyedroppers for free. So just check with some of the pharmacists that have eyedroppers. When adding water or any other liquid, please make note that what type of water you're using. Some people can use distilled water or spring water or just regular tap water. But for me, I always say make sure you use distilled water, because it won't be able to attract any type of metal tasting in the water itself. So distilled, for me, it's just a suggestion, is the best water to use. Then comes spring water, and then regular tap water. The first distilled spirits were sugar-based, primarily with honey or sweet berries or fruit juice, or a sweet type of produce that had a high sugar content. Years ago, they would make tinctures with grape brandy. Well, today, there's over 300 different type of tinctures that you can be able to make. The reason why I'm showing you this one here is because this is very important to remember that brandy has a low alcohol content, so it will give you more of a brandy. If you have tasted brandy, it has a distinct taste itself. You can make tinctures out of cherries. You can make tinctures out of peaches, large grapes, raspberries, but it would take up to probably about 30 to 40 days to make that type of tincture itself because it has more sugar in the fruit, but also brandy itself is more of a sweeter type of alcohol. Now, if you wanted to use a stronger alcohol, such as a gin or a rum or a vodka, that is more strong or a harsher taste, that doesn't have a sugary base to it, then those are acceptable also. So again, when I talked about earlier, when they were discovered, tinctures were discovered, it was in the Middle Ages, and that was a time that there was plenty of different discoveries. There was the spice trade at the time. There was also the silk trade and also the slave trade. And different trades that went different routes were high commodities at that time. So having tinctures, trading for silk, or having as an enslaved person to trade for different other commodities, that was done many ages ago. So that's why I wanted to explain that to you. Well, tinctures are also used for natural alternatives, but also it can be used for medicines. Some tinctures can be used as a regular cocktail drink. It can be used as a conjunction with other type of medicines, but also it can be used for cakes, pies, pastries, dairy products, but primarily tinctures were for medicine itself. The last slide that I would talk about is at the very end, and I don't want to offend anybody about the topic, but that one itself is about hemp or marijuana. That is also a tincture, but right now we're going to talk about herbs and alcohol-based tinctures first. One of the things to remember about tinctures is that this was one of the first type of medicines to be used compared to how we have many varieties of prescription medicines today. So there's people that have insomnia, that have digestive issues, that have menstrual problems, respiratory infections. A lot of tinctures at that time, and still to this day, that has been discovered and been created. They are still effective. To this day, one of the ones that's widely used is elderberry. Elderberry has been used for cough, sinus infections, respiratory issues. Also, elderberry has been used for eczema. So depending on different types of ailments that happens in the human body, a lot of tinctures has been used for a lot of medicines. Now, another thing that you want to make sure is that there are alcohol-based tinctures that have 100 proof alcohol content. And I want to warn you with that one. That itself is a very 100% proof alcohol, and it can cause blindness. So you want to make sure to stay within a certain percentage of alcohol, so that way it won't produce or trigger health issues. One of the benefits of tinctures in the African community itself, there has been a lot of controversy about where and how and who has the biggest advantage of tinctures. Tinctures is not a battle itself, but tinctures is also a hand-down generational medicine that has always been in primarily in all communities, particularly the African American community. From the slave trade itself, a lot of recipes, a lot of remedies has been carried over from the enslaved route to the Atlantic, from North America to Brazil to the West Antilles, and also the Caribbean. And different regions of those communities itself had a lot of enslaved African Americans that took a lot of valuable knowledge and took it to those communities, and those communities itself has flourished. So if you ever get a chance to get into and understand the Brazilian community itself, it's a strong community of African American from the slave trade at that time, and it has a whole bunch of different type of medicines itself, and also in the Caribbean itself. So working with herb medicine and herbologists, a lot of generational herbologists are still here. There's several here in Washtenaw County. So I would suggest that if you are interested in learning more about tinctures and herb medicine, please connect with an herbologist. Tinctures and concentrate herbs are very important. You can use dark berries, you can use tree bark. One of my classes that I do teach in the fall is about the history of black walnuts. Itself, black walnuts has many different properties. Dried leaves, fresh leaves, even the roots. So for an example, the dandelion itself, the most highly prized weed plant that people spend billions of dollars trying to take it out of their lawn. Well, that simple plant has so many different properties. You can make tinctures out of the dandelion tops. You can make tinctures or teas or different type of sauteed greens from just the greens itself. Or you can take the root from the dandelion and you can make dandelion root tinctures. It has many different properties that you can benefit from just the dandelion itself. There's over 40 different varieties of dandelion, but the common dandelion that we have here is the yellow dandelion. So if you would like to try a tincture and you want to try one that's right out your front door, I suggest to try the yellow dandelion. You can also use vinegars in tinctures itself, but again, working with different type of vinegars is very important to know which one. The best one to use to make a tincture is apple cider vinegar. Tinctures are generally alcohol based, but however that now people are now knowing how to create different type of tinctures with glycerin, vinegar, and even oil extracts. There's grapeseed oil, there's walnut oil, there's jojoba oil, and there's cotton oil, and there's pomegranate oil. And extra virgin olive oil is the most highly prized. So if you was to make any type of tinctures, those are also an assorted type of oils that are pretty easy to use. If you have issues or just don't like to use alcohol, then I strongly suggest to try using some of the vinegars, even apple cider vinegar or some of the oils. One of the many gifts of tinctures is that if it's made correctly, it has a long shelf life. Just like I explained earlier, that when making any type of tincture, you want to make sure that it's submerged deep into a container, keep it in a cool, dark place, and from time to time, just give it a vigorous shake so that way it can stir around inside the contents, but also it gives good velocity to the tincture that you're making, as long as you keep it shaking it like 2 or 3 times out of the week. The longest I have created a tincture is about over a year and a half, and that's from the black walnut itself, and also for cherries, black cherries. I use that one also. So shaking your jar, keeping your contents into a cheesecloth, and it's tied, and keeping it submerged is very ideal. And then when you want to strain it, you can just strain it into another cheesecloth, so that way any impurities will be collected in that cheesecloth, and you just discard it from there. Soaking the bark is most important. A lot of people have not heard about this one, but from the older generation, hickory bark, walnut bark, maple bark. There's quite a few different types of flavors that you can enhance to make different types of tinctures. Elderberry is another one. And then you can, on a country roadside, and if you know that community that doesn't spray the ditches, you can also make tinctures out of different type of sumac that are along the roads. Service berry is another one. Blueberry is another one. And also blueberry leaves are edible. You can make blueberry tea out of the blueberry leaves. The more you learn about different types of fresh herbs and fresh fruits, sky's the limit on what type of tinctures to make. Can everyone see this one? Sorry, it's short. The benefits of making a tincture. Well, it goes with the health benefits. Also, it also gives you knowledge about different products that you can make on your own, and also trade with other people, specifically at farmers markets. Farmers markets is one of the best places to learn and to trade with different type of tinctures, and also get to know your community itself. 80% of the world relies on treatments for some type of treatments or ailments with healthcare needs. So if 80% of the world of the population is looking for prescriptions, then that lets you know that there is a place for tinctures still in our society. Tinctures are easy to consume. You can put it in water. You can put it in your cold or hot tea. You can take a small portion and put it underneath your tongue, so that way it will get into your system a lot quicker. Or you can put it in your food if it's okay with your diet. So there's many different ways to make tinctures. Tinctures are inexpensive to make. Tinctures are very important because it carries on the tradition of old medicine. Tinctures itself is old medicine, and it's very important that we preserve old medicine, because that is our own old generation, and keeping the knowledge for the old generation and giving that to the new youth is very important. Now we're going to talk about certain type of plants that is very ideal and useful for different types of tinctures. And you can use more than one or two, or even quite a few different types of herbs or plants into your tincture. But also, like I said earlier, check with your health care provider, so that way you're doing it the correct way. Chamomile flowers itself is a plant that it helps with healing. It helps with healing wounds, anxiety, stress, inflammation. And also, if you're tired, but you just can't get any rest, it's a good calming type of tea. It has a unique taste on its own. There's several different types of chamomile. You can use the flower itself, you can use the petals, and you can use the stems and the leaves. The whole plant itself is edible. It's a wonderful plant. This plant looks familiar, but it also looks just like the chamomile, but this is feverfew. Feverfew is a plant that is very important, that it also helps with migraines. No, it may not solve the migraine headaches itself, but also it can slow down the progress of migraines. There are properties in the feverfew that helps many, but also it may not help a lot for others. So again, always understand different types of herbs that is available. It also helps with arthritis. It also helps with menstrual cramps, cancer, and also it helps with anxiety and depression. Feverfew is a hard to find plant, but it's one of the best plants to have in your garden. In some regions, it can be a perennial, but it's also a biannual plant. So it has two types of growing cycles itself. We are in the zone 6. So this plant will be able to be um, come back year after year. The first year you will get flowers and foliage, but the second year you will just get a lot of foliage but no flowers. But the third year it will come back bright white and yellow, just like you see the picture here, full of flowers. So it's a good plant to have. Ginger. Ginger itself is a good type of herb or herb medicine. A lot of people don't know it, but a lot of people drink ginger ale to get rid of heartburn or get rid of acid reflux. This type of herb itself has many different properties. It's a stimulant. So I just want to warn you that using ginger is a stimulant. And what I mean by that is like it has strong properties that can alert your nervous system. It can give you a boost of energy. So it's always good to know what different type of herbs or plants has different type of properties that it won't mess with your normal livelihood. For pregnant women, I also suggest that take in small amounts, but also if you know of a doula in the community, check with the doulas in the community. We have one in the room today. She is a doula, and I know her very well, and she does good work. So if you want to know more about what doulas do and what they can do for the community and help other women, please get in contact with us and we can share that information with you. Also, having motion sickness. This is another thing that ginger offers, that it calms the stomach down. It keeps the queasiness down. Now, this plant here itself is ginkgo. It has plenty of different types of remedies, and it's one of those plants that you just gotta try it to love it. And it's one of those plants that is hard to find when it's fresh, but when you find it fresh, you buy as much as of it you can. It can be preserved, it can be repropagated, and it can be grown over and over again. So if you have any type of dementia or need help with boosting the brain functionality, this is just one of many different types of natural plants that can help with boosting the brain cells and help some of the activity that can be in the brain. Ginseng. Ginseng, and then there's wild ginseng, two different types of ginseng. This type of ginseng here is one of the many hard to find, but if you can find it fresh, it's very good. It helps with the immune system. People that has GERD problems or have iodine problems deficiency, this is one of the plants to use to help boost the immune system. If you are low blood sugar, this is one of the plants that, with the help of a doctor, can help work with people with diabetes. So learning about ginseng and the properties and the work that it can do for you is very beneficial. One of the nasty weeds that are in almost every garden is the milk thistle, or we call it Canadian thistle. Grabbing it by your hand, you'd be mad because it has lots and lots of thorns. But This pretty plant itself, even though it's an ugly plant by nature of the thorns, it is a beautiful plant. And it helps out with many different things about liver disease. It also helps with as a diuretic, just as the dandelion plant. A lot of plants itself, when you have a bladder issue, it helps relieve the bladder itself, and also it helps to prevent some forms of yeast infection. So having milk thistle and it's contained in a space, yes, is great. But if it's not contained, it is a invasive plant and it needs to be out of your garden because it has goods and it has bads. So the milk thistle is one of those plants that it's a standalone plant by itself. Now, the plant with no name. This is St. John's wort. St. John's wort, just like goldenrod, has plenty different benefits. The reason why we have this plant here because the St. John wort is very beneficial. It helps with acne. It helps with inflammation. It helps with arthritis. It helps with some small catched in time glaucoma issues. St. John's wort itself has hundreds of properties, has hundreds of different types of ways to help the body itself. And also St. John's wort, it can be used as a way to cleanse your face with the right amount of witch hazel and brewer's yeast. It can take the acne off your face and also helps keep from having dry skin. The reason why we talk about these herbs and plants is because the topic today was about tinctures. The most thing that is very important is that having to work with tinctures and knowing how to work with tinctures, keeping them in a cool, dark place will help everyone benefit from the nearby medicine. Sometimes there's a holiday that comes around and the stores close, and we know one of our neighbors is an herbalist, another neighbor is a doula, and another one is a gardener. We collaborate with each other, and sometimes we can create our own temporary medicines just to get us by and help one another, but it won't solve the ailment itself. So again, having the knowledge and the possibility of learning about tinctures is very important. Keep it in a proper foolproof container. Make sure that you're using the best distilled alcohol, 50% and above. Do not go to 100% unless you know and read the contents of what 100% alcohol can do to your body itself. Keep it out of children's way because, again, it is alcohol and we want the little ones to be safe. This is the flower that I talked about earlier that had no name, but this is St. John's wort. It's a funny plant and it's a lovable plant. And it helps out with many different ailments with the body itself and with the mind. So even though that we're trying to cure and help our body itself, the physical body, we also are trying to work with our brain itself because our brain is connected to our body and we can work with both. It'd be beneficial. Now this plant itself, I put this plant in here itself, but it's a hard plant to find. And if you do see it, the saw palmetto is a fruit and it's a wonderful plant. But the science itself is still out there. Some people believe that it makes them walk better and it keeps them from having vertigo. Some people believe that it keeps them from having a ringing in their ear. And the list goes on. But this is one plant that itself, it still needs a lot of research. So that's why I put this one plant in here just to let you know that there are some plants that they just don't know yet. Now, this plant right here, It helps to improve the valerian root. It helps with sleep, just like melatonin. But the difference between this plant and melatonin itself is you can buy it over the counter. We have natural melatonin itself, and it's a sleep aid. But this plant itself, it can improve the sleep itself. It's a gradual pace. It's a little bit slower, and to get into the body, because we have our bodies itself has a biological clock. So for our biological clock to work with this plant, it's a slow, gradual plant itself. Lastly, we're going to talk about marijuana. And again, I don't want to offend anyone about marijuana and the use of marijuana. Marijuana is still a Schedule 1 drug. It is still a crop that has many different faces. Itself, it is an illegal drug, but in most states, it has been recognized as a medicine plant for medical marijuana and also for recreational marijuana use. But for making tinctures itself, which is separate from this plant and the usage, it can be used in a beneficial way. Also, marijuana and hemp are two different plants, same species, but one has a higher THC and another has very minimal to low THC. Working with marijuana is strongly urged to talk to medical professionals about how to make and to work with tinctures, or an herbologist, or a person that is familiar with marijuana itself. Marijuana can be used in many different ways. It can be put underneath the tongue. It can be put on as an ointment or a salve or a butter. The list goes on. It can be used in gum. It helps stimulate the growth in hair. It can also help with eating disorders. It also has properties to help fight cancer and depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. No, I'm not a doctor, and no, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a regular Black farmer that's continuing to teach and share the belief of gardening and farming. Working with tinctures itself is another item that I like to share with the community. Working with marijuana itself, I have worked with marijuana as making a tincture, but as for me to work with another person to work with marijuana and making that as a tincture, I do not do that. So for me, I have to do it for my personal use if I was to do that, but to share that type of work, I don't do that with another person. It's best that the person themselves find another person to help them with marijuana itself. It's a conscious decision that I have to make, and it's a safe decision that I want to make sure that I'm safe and that person is safe. There are over hundreds and hundreds of different types of elixirs. There's same as tinctures itself. There are thousands and thousands of different types of prescribed medications that doctors provide and social workers and caretakers and things of that nature. But again, working with old medicine sometimes could be the best medicine. I'm not taking the place of doctors today and saying that their medicine is inefficient. This class itself is only giving you a highlight of the possibilities of still carrying on the tradition of old medicine. So I want to thank everyone for participating today. I want to apologize for being late. And I want to thank Growing Hope. And also I want to thank everyone that's in here today. Anyone have any questions?
Will Will the slide set be available for us to look at and review?
Yes, I will give that to Growing Hope, and then they will be able to download that for you guys. I mean, I will give this for Growing Hope, and then you will be able to download it from them.
Also, another question, because you talked a lot about different plants. Do people ever combine more than one plant to make tinctures, or is it just basically one at a time?
Well, it goes on what you would like to create and make. Yes, you can create many different types of tinctures with more than one type of herb.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. This is a very good session to I guess, to educate us and for us to seek more information if we chose to. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And again, my name is TC of Willow Run Acres. Today,
Okay.
June 10th, is my 50th anniversary of being the oldest Black farmer in Washtenaw County.
Oh, wow.
I want to dedicate this time and want to give this time for you guys. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I do have a quick question. Do you do like in-person classes as far as tinctures go, or like information regarding plants or like anything in person that you do?
Yes, we do. We have a large list of different type of class options for the community. We are a standalone from Growing Hope itself. Growing Hope offers classes themselves. We also offer classes. And we are the largest African-American garden program in Washtenaw County. We do this year round, even in the wintertime, indoor and outdoor gardening.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How can we find out any information about your classes, when they are, or is there a schedule somewhere?
Yes, we will be posting that next week on our website itself. We are looking for volunteers. We are a nonprofit organization. The community of Apple Ridge, we are building a community farm spot for residents to rent land, an herb garden, a vegetable and fruit garden, a pollinator garden, and also the only one in the nation is the underground railroad garden is at that location itself. It explains and talks and teaches the community about African-American culture and food from the 1600s going forward. Down the street from there, 2 miles down the road, we are in the works of building a farmer's market, the first Black farmer's market in Washtenaw County. That is at Harris and MacArthur Boulevard. And of course, next to Growing Hope in the backfield, we're looking for volunteers to help rebuild the mushroom farm school to teach the community about growing their own mushrooms. Thank you.
Speaking of
Good to
sorry, thanks for telling us that. I have a question about mushroom tinctures. Did we go over that? If not, what is the best solvent to use for mushroom tinctures? And is it best to dry them first or use them fresh?
For me, I would say using vodka or gin that is 80% proof, 80 proof and above. And I would say use them dry. Shiitake, reishi is another. There are, which is rare to grow here, is the pink oyster, the blue oyster. Lion's mane is another mushroom that you can also grow with and use as a tincture. And puffball. Puffball, even though you have to use quite a few of the puffballs, but puffballs itself is a hard mushroom to find. So yes, you can make a tincture out of puffball. And morels, you can when morel season is passed by 3 weeks ago, but when early spring, getting morels is a good tincture to have also.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Karachi, could you introduce yourself to the group if you don't mind, please?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Karasi, and I am a volunteer with Willow Run Acres. I started volunteering a few years ago, but got more active earlier this year. I am a herbalist, a doula, and my main focus is women's health and just pretty much encouraging women to live a more holistic lifestyle to help balance out our overall hormones and our lifestyle. So yeah, that's pretty much it with me. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, for myself, I'm advocating for women farmers because in Washington County, we are lacking women of color and women itself in farming. There's only 17 women farmers in Washington County, and none of them are women of color. There are only 3 Black farmers in Washington County, and I'm the oldest Black farmer. And there's 4,000 farmers in Washington County. So for me, I'm advocating for more women to be new beginning farmers because that is most important because there are grants that are available for women for being a new beginning farmer. And even if you're gardening, that's still considered farming. Please look up the definition and the term of being a farmer. It doesn't mean you have to own hundreds of acres and have to have a tractor and have to only grow soybean or corn. You can have cut flowers, you can have herbs, you can teach a class. It's all about knowledge. So for me, I have 2 stepdaughters that I really want them to be in agriculture and go to historic Black college or university to get into agriculture because there are too many men in management in Washington County. And I strongly suggest working with us, working with Growing Hope, and working to get more women in agriculture because there's too many men at the top. And I'm gonna use myself to break that glass ceiling to make sure women are elevated. Thank you.
That's like really great information. So if we wanted to get in touch with you regarding that, because listen, my dream is to live on a farm with a big garden and some chickens and all that stuff. So how do we, should we, for more information regarding how to do things like that, will we contact you on like your Facebook page, or are you open to speaking more about that on like a personal level, or how would we get in touch with you regarding that?
I'm going to put that in the chat for you right now.
Okay, perfect.
We love to teach classes. We love to engage the youth. And the reason why I say that is that teaching the kids at age 3 and above is most important. That's why we created the Watch Me Grow Sensory Garden, because we work with all 9 senses. In addition to that, we want family to be involved. We just don't want to be a garden operation where families just drop the kids off and then they go back to the casino or they go back to the mall or go back home and go to sleep. We want parent involvement because if a child learns, the parent learns. Even if it's a broken home, we don't look at nobody the way they have their home at. We want everybody to be engaged because farming and gardening is a dying talent. And just by this past 5 years and below, we just had a pandemic, and the community don't know how to save seeds. The community don't know how to can. They don't know how to preserve food. This is just one of many classes that we offer. Growing Hope offers also. So teaching the community about self-awareness with food justice, and learning about food insecurities to help address the poverty issue is most important. So please look us up and we can go from there.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, one more question. Karasi, do you also do classes as far as herbology goes?
Hi, I haven't done any classes yet, only classes like small one-on-one classes with my clients. But I do plan on working with TC to offer classes. But at the end of this year and next year, we have a list of classes that we'll be offering, and herbology will be one of them.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys. I'm
You're
interested in all of it, so thank you.
I did put the information in the chat for our website itself. It does need some work, so bear with us. But also put my our Gmail account, so that way you can get in contact with email.
Hi, TC. I have a question about the tinctures.
Okay.
I haven't made a tincture myself, but I have seen some setups of other people, and I noticed they usually use like the mason jars, like the ball mason jars. Is that the best, I guess, vessel to use when you're making the tincture? Is one question. And then also, do you usually put the herb in for the herb or mushroom, whatever it may be, in first, and then pour the alcohol or vinegar in?
Okay, thank you for both of those questions. The first question is that you want to make sure when you use any type of container, sterilize it first. So that way you get any contaminants off. Just a hot water bath and let it dry naturally.
Okay.
Then you want to sit there and maybe you have seen it or maybe not, but there's a lot of jars that you can go to the dollar store that has a little flip top on it. Don't use those because that is thin glass. You want to just stay away from any type of glass container that is thin. Mason jars with a seal on the lid, it's perfect. Any type of wine bottle that is dark is wonderful, because repurposing wine bottles is an excellent way to make a tincture, because you got the brown, you got the green, and sometimes you can buy a blue wine bottle. So those are excellent. You can use a clear wine bottle itself, but again, more sunlight goes to it, it can create bacteria. So even though that you're using a jar, submerge it, put the contents in the jar first. That's why I was always suggesting cheesecloth. You can go down to Joann Fabric and get a yard of cheesecloth for like $1.50, $2. If you got a coupon. I mean, it's $4 for a yard, but you use the coupon for 50% off, it breaks it down to $2. That's a lot of cheesecloth. Wrap your contents up and use what do they call them? Bamboo skewers. Take a bamboo skewer and just push it down into that jar until it's all the way down at the bottom. Then keep that bamboo skewer in there. Pour your alcohol on top of it. And the reason why you got the bamboo skewer in that jar, because in case if it floats up and then it starts to spill over, you're going to use that bamboo skewer as a way of pushing your contents and keeping them sturdy down at the bottom. The more heavier it is, the more it stays at the bottom. And once it's to the top, just fill it all the way up to the top so you don't have no air. And then seal it. Take out the bamboo skewer, then seal it, and then just put it in a cool, dark place. I'm not saying not above your shoulders. Above your shoulders is not a cool, dark place. Anything that's below your shoulders is a cool, dark place, because heat rises. Even if you are on the first floor to the 50th floor, heat rises. Put it at the bottom cupboard. Put it in your canned goods or your pantry container.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, I think I might have missed you sharing usually how long you have the plants steeping in the mixture for. I think did you say like at least a couple of weeks?
Yes, depending on type of plants. For an example, if you was to use lemon rinds have a thick skin. Those can stay in there for like 30 days or more, no more than 45 days. And you want to take those out and discard them and put fresh ones in, so that way you get the stronger flavor out of the lemon rinds. If you're using basil leaves is going to break down within 3 to 7 days. It can, at the most, it could be 10 days. But you anything that's a light leaf, you got up to 10 days. Anything that has a rind that's thick, or a berry form, it can go 30 days to 45 days the most. The only difference is that alcohol is strong, but vinegar is a pH, and there's a difference. So it depends on what items that you put it in. So like I said, for basil, if you're putting it in alcohol, that is good for like 10 days. If it's in vinegar, 14 days to 21 days the max. Reason for it, because alcohol does not have the acidic inside like vinegars does.
Can you or should you reuse your cheesecloth, or is it after that one time, then you throw it out and use a whole nother cheesecloth?
Always get in the habit of throwing it away, because
Okay.
once you start saving it, you're going to end up start saving germs.
Mm.
And you don't want to do that. Even if you rinse it off, wash it off, and put it into something, just throw it away. Cheesecloth is so cheap, and you don't want to set yourself up to having any bacteria growth or any accidental cross contamination.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just recently discovered a lot of the medicinal properties behind yarrow, and I definitely want to make a tincture out of it this year. I'm wondering if the best time to harvest it for the purpose of making a tincture would be when it actually has flowered, and if you can use all parts of it as well.
I'm glad you asked about yarrow. Yarrow is one of those plants that you can break it down in plenty different stages. You can, the earlier you get the yarrow, is the most, the resin that's inside of the yarrow. So you can start it early spring, and also let me take that back. When you're making any type of herb mix or tinctures or anything, you want to do it early in the morning, because that's when the water and the sugar content is up, or you want to do it late in the evening. And it's the same theory goes, because when it's in the hot of the day, the oils, the sugar, all that is being depleted because of the sunlight. So yes, always early in the morning or late in the evening. Now going back to the yarrow, get yarrow when it's young, and try that as a sample. Then get yarrow with when it's more mature and has flowers on it. And there's plenty of different varieties of yarrow. When it's to have the stems and the flowers, try that. So when you taste those two different types of taste, you will have a more mellow without the strong pungent of the yarrow compared to the flower. And yes, use the stem and the flowers itself. But yes, if you want a nice mellow without the flowers, it has a different taste than with the flowers on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now I'm going to see everybody at the farmer's market selling some tinctures now.
Well, I definitely want to come to one of your classes so that we can get these recipes down, you know, how much to use, how long and all that. So I'm looking forward to getting to your website or whatever so that I can sign up for something.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep.
One of our next classes that we are going to be having is the Underground Railroad Garden class. That's a 90-minute class. That is a small fee based, but that's a 5-week course for 90 minutes. There is a break. It's not a straight 90 minutes, but that is either indoor or outdoor. We haven't decided the location yet, but that's coming up the last week in July.
Okay, good to know.
Are children allowed to come to that?
Yes, because the whole important topic is talking about African American history through slavery. And either you can call them a refugee or you can say they're enslaved. But we want the community to know about African American history through food, because the best thing that a child can learn is that when they go to class, 3rd grade or 5th grade, and they say, hey, I learned about what Rosa Parks did. Well, what did she do? Well, she stood up on the bus. But is that all she did? But then when you talk about Harriet Tubman and what she did with the Black Eyed Susan, people don't know that. So when you teach a child about the history of Black Eyed Susans and why we have them, and you see a lot of communities, Caucasian communities that have Black Eyed Susans, they're pretty flowered, don't get me wrong. But if you don't know the history of a flower in your front yard and it's connected to the enslaved slaves, then there's a disconnect. That's why we're trying to connect the history of agriculture, because America was built on slavery, but it doesn't mean that we have to forget about slavery. We have to remember the past by going forward. So kids are always welcome, and that's the 100% thing that we want, is having children to have this knowledge, so that way when they go to college, then they lead by example.
Right.
So for myself, later on this year, with the help of Growing Hope, Willow Run Acres and Growing Hope will be having more classes on Zoom. We will be having, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's in August, we're going to be having, no, October, sorry about that. In October, we will be having our garlic class, garlic and alum, teaching about the growing and cultivation of onion, olives, garlic, chives, the whole works in the alum family. Then a couple of weeks after that, it'll be in the month of November, we'll be talking about the growing tulips, daffodils, crocus, and hyacinths, and also the saffron crocus, talking about the history and the most highly prized herb, which is saffron. That would be, if I'm not mistaken, in November. And then in December, we will be talking about a small segment about teaching about African American history through food. So we do have some upcoming events coming up on Zoom. Please stay tuned, because this information is very important for both Willow Run Acres and Growing Hope to get the knowledge out there about all this work. And then late August going into September, I will be having a in-person class talking about the history of Black walnuts and the purpose of Black walnuts. And I will be posting that on my website also. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those workshops with everyone here. We'll also be posting this on our social medias as well. That just reminded me to share the next workshop that Growing Hope will host, also a free workshop. It'll be on the Urban Farm, which is 922 West Michigan Avenue in Ypsilanti. And it's a rain barrel 101 workshop. So the Washtenaw County Conservation District, they do an annual selling of rain barrels. So there is the opportunity to pre-order a rain barrel, but also between 1 and 2 p.m. there will be a really informative workshop on the benefits and how-tos of collecting rainwater to water your garden. So I hope to see some of you there.
And I got one question. I believe next month or in the next couple of weeks, you'll be having a seedling distribution.
Yes. Let me double check really quickly here. So yes, it's our last seedling distribution. A lot of like crops that do well in later summer, like the colder crops, lots of greens. We will be distributing out to the community. Anyone can come by to pick plants up on July 14th from 4 to 6 p.m.
And also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I also was just gonna say we'll be sharing that on our Instagram and Facebook as well, for everyone, and also we send emails out to people that are on an email list, so it'll go out there as well. But yes, July 14th, 4 to 6.
For ourselves, Willow Run Acres, this is the last week. If you need seed potatoes, we have quite a few pounds of seed potatoes. If you want to grow your own potatoes, I'm willing to teach you and show you how to grow your own potatoes. This is the last week. We have probably about 200 pounds left if you need any potatoes.
Wow, it's great to know. We've
Come by
actually had
anytime for that?
ask them.
I mean, what was that last one?
I was gonna say, we can come by anytime for that, or is there like specific farm hours that you have?
Just, you can email me or I can give you my phone number, however you want me to do it. I'm, I'm out in the field all the time. So if you want me to give you some potatoes, just let me know where to be at and I can drop them off to you, or you can come by and pick them up.
Okay, all right, I'll definitely shoot your email. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Nope. Okay. Well, again, I want to thank everyone for being here today and allowing me with my late self to share some time with you about tinctures and the history of tinctures and the purpose of tinctures. I want to thank Growing Hope for giving us the opportunity to give this information out. And I want to thank you all for just being yourselves and just being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so motivated.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Christy, was this recorded?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
It's-
Great. All right.
It's still being recorded. So yeah, we'll share this out so people can get this information. It was really awesome, and I appreciated the visual presentation. So I think a lot of people would benefit from seeing this. We recorded it.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a
Okay,
great day.
you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.